How's it going, folks? This is Mike, and I'm back to do a what I've been watching video. Thought I'd roll up my sleeves when I get started here. Anyway, haven't done one of these for a while, and I'm going to do a video for the entire year of 2017 so far, which I'm doing because at the beginning of the year I made a resolution that I would watch more films in the new year, and I wanted to approach this from two different angles. First of all, I wanted to watch more recent films, especially a lot of the films that I missed from 2016. And and the second part is that I wanted to start watching all the films that I've had sitting on my shelves up in my TV room, sometimes for years, and some of them not even taken out of the plastic wrapping. I thought it was high time that I started watching things that I continue to collect. So anyway, so here's what's been going on. Let me give you some numbers. As of last night, when I rented a couple of films, for the year 2017, I watched a total of 107 movies. Okay, which may not seem like a lot for some of you, but for me, that's pretty good. So now, in order to catch up with some of the recent films, I didn't want to rush out and buy them all. I decided to start hanging out the video store once again, something I haven't done since wow, since they closed up all the blockbusters in town. So that's been several years. I totally got out of the habit of going and hanging out at the video store and perusing the stacks, passing other people and saying excuse me, and picking up a couple of things. So I started going to the video stores we have left here in town. We have Family Video, which seems to be the only chain that's left that I know of. And here in Champaign-Urbana, we have at least three. We might have four of these. I'm not sure. And I decided to go. I already had a membership that I was never using, and I started watching recent films. Most of them from 2016, a couple from a couple of years before that. So the number of films that I've actually rented from Family Video, total of 19. Okay, and among these other films that I've been watching, there were, let's see, the films that I watched as rewatch, films I've seen before, there were a total of 20. Now, this includes a lot of favorites that I've had sitting on the shelves because, a lot of us film freaks, we have favorites that we can watch 1,000 times. And for example, a couple of nights ago, I rewatched one of my favorite Betty Davis films, The Letter from 1940, which I love so much. I could watch it probably every night, but that's a little bit silly. Okay, seen before 20 films, rented 19. The only films that I've seen new in theaters, and there really haven't been that many. The last one I saw is the Richard Gere film Norman, the moderate rise and tragic fall of a New York fixer. Okay, I saw The Lost City of Zed, which was wonderful. And the only films that I have seen so far from 2017, of course, all in theaters, The Case for Christ, Beauty and the Beast, and Get Out, which was a pretty cool horror film. So I have a lot of catching up to do in 2017 already. So now I had a film class going on January and it went into March. Missed the first two films, but I saw the rest of them. I saw A Letter from an Unknown Woman, a wonderful film from 1948 starring Joan Fontaine and Louis Jourdan. I saw Winchester 73 from 1950 starring James Stewart and Shelley Winters. I saw a wonderful Irish musical called Once, made in the year 2007, which I had never heard of before. It was a beautiful film, really a beautiful film. I saw the new Jim Jarmusch film called Patterson from 2016, a very unusual and highly recommended film, which I also went out and bought, starring Adam Driver. I just totally enjoyed it. And the last film I saw in the film class was a 2013 French film. Or was it Polish? I guess it was Polish. It's called Ida. That's a woman's name, spelled Ida. It's about the story of a Polish nun after World War II who is told that she has to leave the convent and go to meet her last living relative before she makes her final vows. And she meets this woman. The woman tells her something that Ida had no idea was the truth. She told her that she came from a Jewish family, and that her entire family had been killed in the Holocaust. So a very beautiful and very dramatic film. After that, I saw several films as revivals in theaters since January. I saw Dracula, again, the original Dracula, which was wonderful on the big screen. Donnie Darko. I saw The Man Who Came to Dinner, which is a Betty Davis comedy from 1942. Very good movie. I saw Buster Keaton in The General, and I saw The Ten Commandments. Okay, I saw all of those films in theaters, which was quite enjoyable. Let's see, what else did I want to tell you? I guess that's pretty all I wanted to say about numbers and all that sort of thing. Let me show you a few of the films I've been watching at home. I watched 4 films based on writings by, or screenplays or plays by Tennessee Williams in this wonderful Turner Classic Movies compilation. 4 films: Baby Doll from 1956, starring Carol Baker and Carl Malden, which is a very strange and very funny movie. Very good movie. After that, The Roman Spring of Mrs. Stone from 1961, starring Vivian Leigh and Warren Beatty. From 1962, The Sweet Bird of Youth, starring Paul Newman and Geraldine Page. And from 1964, The Night of the Iguana, starring Richard Burton, Ava Gardner, Deborah Carr, and Sue Lyon, directed by John Huston. Very interesting film. What's interesting about The Night of the Iguana? It was a hit play, and Betty Davis actually played the part that Ava Gardner plays in the film, and Betty Davis was not offered the role in the film, which did not make her happy, but it's a very interesting movie. I also picked up at a used video store this Mario Bava horror film, which isn't very well known by a lot of people, I don't think. It's called The Whip and the Body from 1963, starring Christopher Lee and Dahlia Lavi. It's in color. Now, it's a very well done film, very much worth seeing. Beautiful cinematography. Mario Bava was as much of an expert using color as he was in black and white, and he made the transition to color beautifully. And this is visually, it's a masterpiece. Now, the story goes that Mario Bava wanted to get Barbara Steele to play the part that Dahlia Lavi ended up playing, and he wasn't able to get her. But it would have been her second film for Mario Bava after Black Sunday, and it would have had a great pairing with Christopher Lee. And it's very sad that didn't happen, but it's still very much worth seeing. Very much worth seeing. I also picked up at the same used video store this French movie directed by Jean-Luc Godard in 1967. It's called Weekend. Something I don't think I'd ever heard of it at all, but I wasn't going to pass this up for $5. A French film by Godard. The actors of the film are people I've never heard of, but this is one of the most bizarre, kind of offensive, but very funny black comedy satire on bourgeois French life of the 1960s. I can't even begin to describe this, what happens in the film. This married couple living this almost idyllic bourgeois life in Paris. They take off on a drive to the country to go to visit her parents, and while they're going on this drive, they encounter the world's longest traffic jam, and they just get involved in some of the most bizarre things, and they meet the creepiest and funniest people. They end up losing their car and being kidnapped by this group of anarchists living in the woods, and they end up joining them. It goes into some very strange places. I need to watch this again. I've only watched it once, and my memory is so bad that some of the details are leaving me, but it is absolutely one of the strangest things you will ever see. So Weekend. Okay, anyway, I also went out and I bought and paid full price for, and I'm not embarrassed to tell you, the new Criterion release of Michelangelo Antonioni's Blow Up from 1966, which is absolutely one of my favorite films. Talked about it endlessly in other videos. Sorry. This is a great transfer, and it has a lot of extra features. I've kept my old copy of Blow Up because this has a commentary, and this does not. So I will not get rid of this. And the visual transfer on this is actually very good. The only bad thing about it is that the sound isn't very good, and I still don't have a sound system for my widescreen TV, which is upstairs. So it's kind of hard to hear it. So I got this, well, for every other reason possible, but I also wanted to get better sound. So anyway, blow up. All right. So some of the other weird things I've been watching lately. This 1966 black comedy called Lord Love a Duck, directed by George Axelrod, and it stars Roddy McDowall, Tuesday Weld as a couple of high school students. They're a little bit old to be in high school by the time this was made. Tuesday Weld is the daughter of a very sexy cocktail waitress played by Lola Albright, and they have a very strange mother-daughter relationship. Tuesday Weld is playing another Lolita type character, and she ends up being a movie star. It's a satire. Well, let me read what it says back here. Okay. Black comedy satire of 1960s beach party movies, teenage exploitation films, rock and roll, and 1960s Southern California teenage culture. Roddy McDowall lands in a psycho ward after bulldozing his high school graduation. Okay. They make a beach party movie within the movie. Rock and roll by a group called the Wild Ones. And Tuesday Weld hits stardom as a young actress. Her name is Barbara Ann Green, but she becomes a movie star overnight in a beach party movie called Bikini Widow. Does that sound strange? It should. It's very strange. Ruth Gordon is also in it, Harvey Korman. It's a very strange and very funny movie. So my Tuesday Weld research continues. What can I say? I also watched this terrific 1943 film with Joan Crawford and Fred MacMurray. It's called Above Suspicion, the last film that Joan Crawford made at MGM before she went over to Warner Brothers to make Bette Davis's life miserable. This film was given to me by my good friend Dave Koenig. Thank you very much, Dave. I sincerely appreciate it. Very happy to have it. I also got around to watching Boyhood by Richard Linklater. Totally enjoyed this. This is not the Criterion release. I found this at a grocery store for $6, and I wasn't going to pass it up. It took me a long time to get around to watching this, and I'm so glad that I finally did. This is really, really wonderful. And I'm considering getting the Criterion edition. I don't know. Maybe I will. I also sent away for a Joan Crawford, Clark Gable MGM classic from 1934 called Dancing Lady, which is the first screen appearance by Fred Astaire, who is dancing with Joan Crawford. And this is a funny movie. Well, a fun movie. It's also very funny. Joan Crawford is not the best dancer in the world, but she wasn't bad. She's no Ginger Rogers. But it's a very cool film. I had never seen this before, so I'm very happy to have it. It was kind of hard to find for a while. I also picked up a couple of recent films, American Hustle and Broken City. This is, of course, the one with Christian Bale, Bradley Cooper. Who are these other people? Amy Adams, Jennifer Lawrence, Jeremy Renner. This is I picked this up at Big Lots for $3, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, I absolutely enjoyed this movie so much. So I don't mind. You know, I may not ever watch it again, but I'm happy to have it in my collection. I also bought this very violent detective story called Broken City with Mark Wahlberg and Russell Crowe, and I'm trying to get a little more accustomed to watching violent films. I had an exchange in email with my friend Cineram, Scott Green, who we were talking about violence in films. He said I should sort of, I can't remember exactly how he put it, but I should sort of accommodate myself to violence in a gradual fashion, just sort of work with it. So anyway, I'm trying to do that, and I find that I can do that better when I'm at home, because I can sort of yell at the screen and talk back and just go like that, which you can't necessarily do in the theater. So this is actually kind of cool. I really am a big fan of Mark Wahlberg. I'm not sure why. Maybe because he's short like me, and I understand, you know, the short guy syndrome, where we feel like we have to try harder and be louder and all that sort of thing. So anyway, that's just a little bit of what I've been watching lately. Some of the films I've rented, classic films from the last year or a couple of years before. I rented Hidden Figures. I rented Fences. I rented Sully, starring Tom Hanks, which is wonderful. I Am Not Your Negro, the documentary about James Baldwin. I rented Loving. I rented Moonlight. Let's see. And the first one I rented, the very first one on the first night that I went to the video store, The Girl on the Train, which I absolutely loved. And I've really enjoyed almost every one of these films that I've been watching. Now, the last two films I rented just a couple of nights ago, well, I took them back tonight actually. Um, the Robert De Niro film, The Comedian, which came out in 2016, which I would give it maybe 2 stars out of 5. It's not that great of a film, really. It's it's kind of an excuse for Robert De Niro to just come out with 4-letter words every 10 seconds. That's pretty much all there is to it. In between, he plays a stand-up comic who is one of these guys who is always insulting people, can't seem to help himself, and no matter what his audience is, he's just as down and dirty as he can possibly get. Which it still could be funny, but I don't know, it's kind of overkill in the movie. And the character is not all that likable. And in between all the stand-up comedy routines, which is mostly what it is in the movie, they intersperse little bits of this not terribly interesting story. And I don't know, it wasn't that great. The other movie that I rented is a film from 1995 called 12 Monkeys, the science fiction classic directed by Terry Gilliam with, let's see, who did it have in it? Bruce Willis and Madeline Stowe and Brad Pitt, and I really enjoyed it. A lot of it was kind of hard to take. It was pretty violent, but I did enjoy it. Brad Pitt was absolutely incredible in this movie. So anyway, so that's kind of what I've been doing lately, and I've taken up about 17 minutes of your time. So thank you for watching, and I will turn this off here.